Before knocking on CEO Curtis's door, I silently cursed his entire family lineage in my heart. Damn that capitalist bastard. Pays me a salary that even a dog would turn its nose up at. Yet makes me work like a beast. The weather's bone-chilling cold. And he sends me to deliver documents. Am I his secretary or what? If it weren't for the pandemic making jobs hard to find, I would have thrown in my resignation long ago. That damn man. No wonder he's still single at his age. While I was angrily cursing him in my head. Click. The door suddenly opened. CEO Curtis was wearing gray pajamas. Hair a little messy. But that face, well, it was truly handsome. Being handsome was probably the only advantage he had left. He stood on the doorstep, looking down at me, his voice cold. Diane, is your face twitching? I hurriedly rubbed my face, forcing a smile, just frozen from the cold. Clearly, my boss has no such thing as a conscience. He just nodded lightly and reached out to take the documents from my hand. HMPH. HMPH. My ass. Maybe my gaze was too resentful. Because Curtis cleared his throat, clenched his fist, and said, politely, "Come in and have a sip of hot water?" I should have declined. But honestly, I was freezing to death. Damn right. Maybe my accusing look was too intense, making Curtis a bit embarrassed. He cleared his throat again and, politely, repeated, "Come in and have a sip of hot water to warm up?" I should have declined. But God, I was so cold I could almost freeze. I pretended not to understand his empty politeness. Gave a forced smile. "Then I'm troubling you, Mr. Curtis. Thank you very much. Curtis, come on in." He stepped aside helplessly, letting me enter the house. "Hot cocoa okay?" As I sat down on the sofa, he shuffled over in slippers from somewhere and asked. I nodded eagerly. "Sure, that sounds perfect." He glanced at me, as if surprised I could be so shameless. While Curtis went to the kitchen to make the cocoa, I quickly stole a glance around his place. The penthouse was a spacious 300 square meters, with a balcony overlooking the sea. Well, it really was a capitalist's home. From the dazzling chandelier on the ceiling to the Italian leather sofa under my butt. Everything shamelessly proclaimed one thing. We are very expensive. Awesome. This capitalist bastard lives in this luxurious mansion on the sweat and tears of people like me. I silently counted the years I'd need to work starting from the Southern Song Dynasty era just to maybe afford a place like this. "Drink up." Curtis set a porcelain cup on the coffee table, then sat on the sofa beside me. I obediently lifted the cocoa and sipped it slowly, secretly glancing at him. At the company, he always wore a tidy suit, buttoned up the collar no matter how hot it was, wearing gold-rimmed glasses, looking like a good boy, but with a twisted streak. I'd never seen him at home before, with messy hair and no glasses like now. He looked several years younger, even somewhat boyish. "Enough looking?" Curtis asked coldly, eyes still glued to his phone. Startled, I quickly looked away and awkwardly took a few more sips of cocoa. "Thanks, Mr. Curtis. I'll go now. You rest well." Curtis nodded lightly. "Let me see you out." Without waiting for me to refuse, he grabbed a jacket from the nearby rack and put it on. My boss personally escorted me down. I felt a little doted on but was also nervous. Quietly following his backside into the elevator. As we exited the elevator, I looked up and saw several people in full protective gear waiting in the lobby. Suddenly, a very bad feeling surged inside me. As soon as they saw us coming down, they immediately raised their hands to block us. In building number 7, a positive case has been detected. Starting now, lockdown is in effect. No entry or exit. Residents please stay home and self-isolate. We will regularly distribute supplies. Thunder struck my ears. I froze and turned sharply to look at Curtis, who was also dumbfounded like a statue. I had never seen him so lost before. The epidemic staff urged us anxiously to return upstairs quickly. Curtis and I looked at each other, unsure what to do next. A minute later, he covered his face and sighed. "Sorry for involving you. For now, just stay at my place." I stood still, not moving. He looked at me suspiciously. "What's wrong?" "It's okay. I have a guest room. I hesitated, then shyly looked up and whispered. During the quarantine, does this count as paid leave? Life is truly a dream. 10 minutes ago, I was sitting here, dreaming about how many years I'd have to work before I could afford a house like this. And now, I really get to stay here. Curtis showed me the guest room. Calling it a guest room. It was still more than half the size of the matchbox I rented before. With a partial sea view outside the window. The large bed, about 2 meters by 2.3 meters, was neatly made, and he pointed to the closet. The blankets and pillows are all in there. Help yourself. The bathroom is over there. I nodded, and he knocked lightly on the door before leaving. Make yourself comfortable. As soon as his footsteps faded away, I dove onto the bed like a fish flopping on water. The mattress was soft but supportive. Obviously high-end. Lying face down, a complicated feeling rose inside me. 14 days of paid leave, under normal circumstances. I'd be overjoyed just dreaming of that. But if those 14 days mean living with my boss. How to put it? Like chocolate mixed with poop. Curtis's bed was so comfortable that as soon as I lay down, I drifted off before I could think a single thought. When I woke up, I found a feather blanket had been laid on me. I slowly got up and tiptoed out to the living room. That sleep was amazing. It was just after 2 p.m. when I arrived. But now the sunset outside the window painted everything with a pink-purple hue. Curtis was sitting beside the bed, his high nose casting a shadow across his face. I hesitated. Thank you, Mr. Curtis, for the blanket. Curtis turned his head with a hard-to-read expression. Diane, you even snore when you sleep? At that moment, my mind suddenly built a 3-bedroom, 1 living room apartment in an instant. And I felt I really didn't need to stay here anymore. And then my stomach growled loudly. Just when I was about to bash my head against the wall in frustration. My stomach growled again, but this time, not mine. I looked up, behind Curtis's ear. His pale skin was blushing faintly. He hesitated, then asked, "Do you know how to cook?" I don't know how. I only know how to eat. But in this apartment, there are only 2 people, either I cook or he cooks. Asking Curtis to cook for me? That's like voluntarily crawling into the bathroom to look for death. I stiffly nodded. No, but I can try. Curtis looked at me suspiciously, then went to open his huge double-door fridge. Inside, it was empty. The scene immediately fell into a suffocating silence. What's scarier than being quarantined at your boss's place? Being quarantined at your boss's place with no food. My stomach hurt in waves. Like someone was squeezing lemon into it. I'd skipped lunch, and now I was literally sticking my belly to my back. Just as I was about to give up hope, I suddenly remembered. I had 2 packs of snail noodle soup in my bag. I bought it earlier at the supermarket, planning to eat it bit by bit at home. I cautiously glanced at Curtis. Mr. Curtis, have you ever eaten snail noodle soup? He glanced at me. No, I don't like foods with odors. So, would you mind if I eat snail noodle soup at your place? Finally, Curtis reluctantly nodded, although he didn't look too happy about it. I quickly boiled water, added noodles, and tossed in all the seasoning packets like usual. Soon, a smell spread through the air, like a clogged sewer that hasn't been cleaned in years. Curtis sat on the sofa, face as green as banana leaves, covering his nose tightly. After a while, probably unable to bear it, he got up silently and slammed his bedroom door shut. I snorted with contempt. Looks like he's still not hungry enough to be desperate. I happily poured the snail noodles into a big bowl and turned on the movie I was binge-watching. This brand really was top-notch. Although it was a bit more expensive than others, the flavor was spot on. I was about to eat happily when, bam, the bedroom door suddenly slammed open. Curtis stormed out, footsteps pounding, handsome face twisted in agony. He covered his nose and gritted his teeth. Can you eat faster? This smell is like a toilet explosion. I looked up, smiling wryly. No way, Mr. Curtis. It's still hot. I'm serious. You try a bite. It's like stinky tofu, smells terrible, but tastes amazing. No way. I'd rather starve than eat this. I picked up a chopstick of noodles. white and translucent, soaked in golden, fragrant broth. Try one bite, Tilda, anyway. You're already smelling like it. Really? It's delicious. Just then, Curtis's stomach growled loudly again. He swallowed nervously, face torn with inner struggle. All right, I'll try one bite. Curtis only tried one bite, by his definition. He grabbed a fresh pair of chopsticks and scooped up half my bowl. I clenched my chopsticks, face turning dark. Curtis glanced at me awkwardly, hurriedly shoving the noodles in his mouth. He wiped his mouth and whispered, "Sorry." My heart broke. Less than half my bowl left. I said nothing, pushed the bowl aside, and silently slurped the rest. Curtis sat across from me, cleared his throat but didn't speak. I pretended not to hear. So rude. I hate when people say, "Try it," but then swallow half the bowl. After a long while, just as I finished eating and was about to drink the last sip of broth, Curtis finally spoke, voice a bit shy. "Any left? If so, cook me another pack. Okay?" To make up for stealing half my noodles, the last pack was split in two, half for me, half for him. After calling it a full meal, we sat quietly on the sofa in the room full of smell. Curtis looked both satisfied and a little down. What should we eat tomorrow? I should have bought some groceries. I didn't know either, so I comforted. It's okay. Maybe the supply delivery will come tomorrow. He nodded without a word. Silence fell. I felt a bit awkward. Stood up and went back to my room, planning to shower early and sleep. Curtis's house may have no food, but the living supplies were extremely complete. I casually grabbed a bottle of shampoo, covered with foreign writing I couldn't understand, but clearly expensive. A hot shower felt so relaxing. I dried off with a brand new towel and prepared to go to bed. As soon as I took off my towel, I suddenly realized a super embarrassing problem. I forgot to bring a change of underwear. The next morning, Curtis and I were both sprawled out on the sofa, our stomachs growling loudly from hunger. The hunger made me bold enough to complain. "Curtis, why is there nothing to eat in your house?" Curtis mumbled. "Usually the housekeeper does the shopping and cooking. She's afraid the vegetables won't stay fresh, so she buys new stuff every day." I felt my inner resentment towards the rich start to rebel. Really, rich people's karma is harsh. I wandered over to the window and threw it open. Curtis looked at me. "What are you doing?" "I'm breathing in the northwest wind to survive. I just messaged the residences group. The management said they'll deliver food at noon. Just hold on a bit longer." So there we were, lying on the sofa, watching TV, trying to endure each minute. On the screen, a documentary played. The people of Lanzhou always start their morning with a bowl of beef noodles. This city has over 1,000 noodle shops, consuming up to 1 million bowls a day. I stared at the TV, white noodles in clear broth, sprinkled with cilantro and beef. I swallowed hard. Curtis's Adam's apple moved slightly. He looked at the screen, muttering, "This is the first time I've craved noodles this much." Craving noodles? I'm craving a knife. Don't even know if we'll have anything edible for lunch. Curtis looked at me. "Diane, after the lockdown is lifted, let's go get noodles." "Yeah?" I nodded. "Okay, but who knows when that'll be." Curtis was pretty optimistic. "Probably just about 14 days. Our area's outbreak isn't too severe." I hesitated a long time, then whispered, "Curtis, about that?" "Huh?" He looked at me cluelessly, as if he didn't understand. I bit my lip, shamelessly asked, "Could you ask management to send me a few pairs of underwear?" Curtis's eyes went wide, mouth slightly open, body stiff, his porcelain white skin flushed, spreading up to his earlobes. I lowered my head, face as red as a tomato, not daring to say another word. It's really not that I want to trouble management, but I can't live 14 days completely naked. A man and a woman, living together in an apartment? This situation is way too something. Silence. A silence that suffocated. After a while, Curtis's voice came, soft and muffled, as if he had something in his mouth. "What size do you wear?" The management's efficiency was really impressive. Just before lunchtime, they delivered a big package of vegetables, fruits, rice, noodles, all kinds of meat, and 3 pairs of women's underwear. Curtis looked at those tiny packages like they were on fire, immediately tossing them to me like bombs. Here, your order. I gave him a contemptuous glare. Like I've never seen underwear before. Don't you wear underwear yourself? Now that everything was ready, Curtis and I sat facing each other at the dining table, eyes exchanging confused looks. Ahem. He coughed lightly, then gestured with his eyes. Your turn to cook. I turned my head away, pretending not to understand his body language. Ahem ahem. Diane. I looked up at him. Go cook. I looked at Curtis with my most sincere eyes. Curtis, it's really not that I'm lazy, but these ingredients are so precious. I'm afraid I'll ruin them. I already have to work like a beast for the company. And now he wants me to be his unpaid housekeeper? No way. Today I'm definitely going to be a stubborn cat, making my boss work like a horse for me. Curtis glanced at me like he regretted hiring me in the first place. After a never-ending struggle, he finally sighed and stood up. Surely you can wash vegetables, right? Then make sweet and sour potatoes. I dragged a small chair into the kitchen and started peeling potatoes. Curtis rolled up his sleeves and somehow pulled out an apron. Typical rebellious student but so prepared. Looks like a pro. He bent down, skillfully tied the apron in a neat bow, then took the peeled potatoes and started slicing. Curtis held the potato like it was a bomb. Frowning, bent over carefully lifting the potato like a treasure, thinking hard before daring to slice it the first time. Seeing that, I knew this was not going to end well. Curtis noticed I was staring, awkwardly turned and hid the potato. Go wash the veggies. The chopping sound echoed rhythmically on the cutting board, heavy and light like he was fighting the food. His tense demeanor spread to me, making me worry too. What if he cuts his hand? If he cuts his hand now, we can't go to the hospital. I sat behind him, watching that busy silhouette with worry. After over 20 minutes, just as my stomach growled again, Curtis turned his back to me and shyly said, Today, no more sweet and sour potatoes. Let's have sweet and sour potato cubes. Sweet and sour potato cubes? Damn, does that even sound like food? But since I'm not touching anything, I dared not complain and just nodded to comfort him. That's fine. In the end, it all turns into the same thing after eating. Curtis glanced at me. Now I'm starting to regret letting you deliver the documents. You think I'm not regretting it? Do you think I'm willingly eating that potato cube monstrosity? Curtis really is a boss. Even cooking feels like working in the office. Sometimes he tells me to add vinegar. Sometimes to add salt. Hey, it's burning. Pour water in quickly. I ran around the kitchen like a whirlwind, hastily handing him a bowl of water. Curtis poured all the water in, drowning the potatoes to the bottom of the pan. Well, no more sweet and sour potatoes. Tonight we're switching to potato soup. A white steam carrying a sour vinegar smell rose up. Curtis's eyes suddenly lit up. That's it. That's the smell. By the time we sat down at the table, it was already an hour later. At the long, magnificent table, Curtis and I each took an end, and between us was a plate of potato cubes floating in liquid. Curtis raised his phone and took a few proud shots. This is the first time I've cooked myself. I looked at the half-cooked potatoes in front of me, misshapen chunks, irregular sizes, soaking in a watery sauce, looking like they were soaking in a hot spring. I really didn't understand what Curtis was so proud of. He half-lidded his eyes, nodded toward me. Try some. How is it? I felt the dish had a strange magic. Just looking at it made me full, and my hungry stomach immediately lost its appetite. But if I dared to openly criticize in front of my boss, this 14-day paid leave might turn into permanent unpaid leave. I picked up a piece of potato, took a deep breath, and put it in my mouth. Sour. Soul-souringly sour. I wanted to punch the vinegar seller. Besides sourness, there was no other flavor. Not enough salt. Too much water. In other words, a disastrous failure. I chewed the potato like I was practicing an ancient martial art, swallowing only after 99 tries. Then I forced a crooked smile. Really delicious. Absolutely top-notch. The flavor, is just perfect. Curtis's lips twitched with pride. Smart like me. I learn fast. Tomorrow I'll make shredded potatoes. He reached out with chopsticks, grabbed a piece of potato, and put it in his mouth. And then, his face began to distort. His expression changed rapidly, like a live streamer tasting sour plums on Douyin, making grimaces but forcing compliments. His features scrunched into a ball, chewing like he was solving a murder. Then shut his eyes and swallowed like bitter medicine. Really good. I'm full now. Diane, the rest, it's your turn. Saying that, he pushed the plate of hot spring potatoes toward me. I suspected my boss was plotting to use a plate of potatoes to humanely eliminate me. While I was sadly staring at the soaking potatoes, Curtis suddenly burst out laughing. I looked up at him. The crystal lights glittered on his face. His eyelids slightly pink, and in his eyes was a warm, amused sparkle. I had never seen Curtis like this before. I was stunned, just staring blankly. Curtis held his chopsticks with slender fingers, tilted his head and said, "Just kidding. If I accidentally poison you to death, then I'd have to quarantine alone. Right? Living with my boss, maybe it's not as bad as I thought." Except for his somewhat unethical cooking. The rest seemed pretty okay. Honestly, not having to go to work every day is a blessing. I had so much free time that I even started a garlic growing business on Curtis's balcony. Curtis leaned his head over me, curious. "What are you doing?" I carefully placed each garlic clove in a shallow water tray. "I'm growing garlic. To sprout." "Garlic sprouts? Can you eat those?" I turned my head and gave Curtis a long glare. "Can you stop asking such useless questions?" HMPH. Curtis gently tapped my head. "You really have guts. Trying to get out of work." "Huh?" I shook my head and pushed his hand away. "There's not enough water. Go pour more for me." His footsteps clattered away and then came back. "Here." I took the glass of water and carefully poured it on the garlic roots. Then clapped my hands with satisfaction. "All set. In 7 to 10 days. We'll have fresh garlic shoots." Curtis laughed. "By then the quarantine should be over. You can't come to my place empty-handed. So bring some local specialties." "Sure, then I'll make garlic stir-fry. You won't get a bite." I wasn't happy and glared at him while squatting. "Diane, do you have any conscience at all?" Curtis raised his eyebrows, a slight smile at the corner of his eyes. "Have you cooked any meals these days?" "Who else if not me?" I retorted. "Listen to yourself. Asking your boss to cook for his employee. Does that sound like something a normal person would say?" I felt a bit awkward, quickly flashing a flattering smile. A good person does more work as expected of a boss. Even cooking better than others. Curtis's lips twitched. Not bad. I suspected Curtis was really going stupid from quarantine. He wasn't like this before. At the company, I rarely saw him, but whenever he appeared, he was a perfect CEO. Black suit, cold face, slicked back hair, every step like a mark in the financial world. And now? His biggest hobby every day was researching recipes, watching TikTok cooking videos, and seriously asking me to rate his dishes. From blunt critiques like, "Even a dog wouldn't eat this," to flattering phrases like, so, horse, tiger. I have to admit, he really improved fast. I put the little garlic tray in the sunniest spot on the big balcony. Done. Another dish in 10 days. Curtis chuckled mockingly. Lately, the supplies have all been potatoes. We flipped through and ate. Steamed potatoes, roasted potatoes, fried potatoes, potato cakes. I feel like I'm turning into a potato myself. After dinner of Curtis's potato stew, we sat on the sofa watching TV. I was sipping hot cocoa and watching Criminal Minds when Curtis walked over and calmly took the remote. "Tonight there's a game. I'll watch the game." "Watching the game?" I frowned. "What's so great about watching soccer?" "Let's watch a movie." "No way. Today's the final." We agreed. 1 day each. "You can't break the deal." "Who's breaking the deal?" "It's Sunday. On Sundays, we play rock paper scissors. Whoever wins gets to watch." Curtis ignored me, switched to the sports channel. Then, still in his pajamas, sprawled on the sofa like he was sitting on a throne. His place had plenty of TVs. But we both preferred watching in the living room sofa. It felt more alive. We had an agreement. Monday, Wednesday, Friday were his days, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday were mine. Sunday was decided by rock, paper, scissors. Curtis gave me a helpless look. What kind of movie is that with all the blood and guts? Are you really a woman, Diane? I glanced at him and teased. A bunch of people fighting over a ball. What's so fun about that? Curtis, are you sure you're a man? It's not the same. Not the same. Anyway, today I have to watch the game. I lunged to grab the remote. I said Sunday is rock, paper, scissors. Why are you being so rude? Curtis raised the remote high above his head. Young lady, I advise you to control the mouse in your heart and not be unreasonable. He's taller than me by a head. Climbed up the sofa, and held the remote close to the ceiling. I was furious. Are you planning to throw the remote up to the next floor? Get down right now. Curtis grinned mischievously. You think you're good? Go get it yourself. If I wasn't afraid of ruining that $210,000 Italian leather sofa, I'd have taught him a lesson on manners long ago. Girls don't tolerate men. I puffed up my cheeks, annoyed, and got off the sofa. You're not keeping your word. I'm not watching anymore. Suit yourself. Seeing me really angry, a flustered expression flashed on Curtis's face. Oh, come on. Don't be so serious. All right. Oh man. I admit defeat. He ruffled his hair in frustration. Then tossed me the remote. Watch whatever you want. Watch it all the way. And tonight you'll dream about blood and guts. I turned around with a victorious smile. Curtis, you're still too green. You need to learn from me. This is deep water. You won't survive. You? He glared at me, but the corners of his lips twitched upwards. All right. You can watch it. I'll watch it with you. Criminal Minds was a show I'd rewatched for almost half a year. At first, it was kind of gross with all the dismembered bodies and severed heads. But now, I could watch and eat at the same time without blinking. Curtis, however, wasn't used to that yet. He sat like he was going to battle. Eyes narrowed, back rigid, clutching a pillow tightly as if preparing for disaster. I mocked him. Curtis, the big CEO. Scared to watch a show like this? Curtis scoffed. Nonsense. I glanced at him, ignoring him. The show aired until 11:30 p.m. and I was already nodding off. Curtis's eyes were wide open, glued to the screen like he was guarding against an assassin. I rubbed my eyes. So sleepy. I'm going to bed. Don't call me for breakfast tomorrow. I want to sleep till I wake up naturally. Curtis nodded, reaching to turn off the TV. I'm going to bed too. I looked at his excited expression. Smirked slyly. Don't tell me you're too scared to sleep after watching that? If you really are, you can sleep in my room. Really? Curtis's eyes lit up like headlights. I nodded seriously. My bathroom's big. There should be enough space for you to lie down. He gave me a sidelong glance and coldly said, no thanks. That night, I didn't sleep well, mainly because the floor heater was blasting too strong, and I woke up dry and thirsty. After tossing and turning, I finally forced myself to sit up and look for water. The room was pitch dark. I was too lazy to turn on the light. So I navigated by memory to the living room. Suddenly, I heard tiptoeing in the living room. Cold sweat poured down my back. My heart pounded loudly. I shifted quietly, hugging the wall, and peeked into the living room. A dark figure was crouched there, rummaging through the cabinets, tossing things everywhere. Damn, it's a real thief. I panicked, scared and desperate, about to run and call Curtis. But as I turned, I accidentally kicked the corner of the wall, making a small thud noise. The shadow froze immediately, trembling, then stopped moving entirely. I was so scared I froze in place. The shadow slowly stepped toward me, and suddenly I felt a surge of courage. There's still a man in the house. I'm not alone. I quickly targeted the man's weakest spot, with one thought in mind. Strike decisively. One move to end it. Everything was ready. The moment the shadow got close, I kicked hard right in the crotch and shouted. Critical hit. Testicles. Ah. A pitiful scream echoed, the shadow clutching his groin. Shaking in pain. I was stunned. It seemed. That was Curtis's voice. The lights in the living room switched on brightly, showing every shadow and detail clearly. Curtis lay pale as paper, cold sweat pouring down his forehead, curled up on the sofa, clutching his belly with a twisted face. He stiffly turned his head to look at me, voice choked with pain. Diane, are you crazy? You attacked my man? That's just cruel. I felt guilty, sitting with hands on my knees like a student being scolded. Who knew it was you? If you'd said one word, it wouldn't have been a problem. You were silent all night and sneaking around. Who wouldn't be scared? We're in lockdown. Lockdown. Who has time to break in and steal at midnight? Is your brain just decoration on your neck? Curtis yelled like he was about to collapse. I looked down, not daring to argue. I was wrong this time. His face twisted in pain. Why did you sneak down in the middle of the night instead of sleeping? I glanced at him and murmured. Thirsty, I came down for water. And, you? I asked innocently. Curtis froze, expression stiff. No answer. I looked around and saw a small white night lamp lying where I had just delivered the critical hit. No way. Did he sneak down to get a night lamp because he was scared of losing sleep? I almost burst out laughing. But then I remembered. I had just brutally attacked someone. Laughing now would be heartless. So I tried to hold it in, almost hurting inside. That critical hit really was critical. Curtis curled up on the sofa, still not recovered. I started to worry. What if I caused irreversible damage? I whispered. Maybe you should go to the hospital for a checkup? Checkup for what? Curtis glared at me, full of frustration. If I go to the hospital now, how will I face anyone at work? But, what if you can't, you know? No way. Curtis gritted his teeth, wiped sweat, voice clenched. I'm strong. I'm still hard. I'm fine. Men. Huh. All soft in the body but tough in the mouth. I sat beside him on the sofa for an hour, watching his pale face slowly regain a little color. Finally, he sighed, looking better. Probably, okay now. I nodded. Then, go to bed early. Okay? Curtis glanced at me, about to say something but hesitated. What's wrong? I asked. Curtis shook his head softly. Nothing. It was late, and I was starting to nod off. I yawned loudly and stumbled back to the bedroom. As soon as my head hit the pillow, there was a soft knock on the door. I frowned, annoyed. Again? What's wrong with your brothers? No. Curtis hugged the pillow, barefoot, standing in front of my door. I'm a little scared. Can I sleep with you? I stared at Curtis, knocking on a female subordinate's door at midnight asking to sleep together. Do you think that's okay? Curtis pursed his lips, suddenly raised his hand to cover my eyes. What are you staring at? If you hadn't forced me to watch all that bloody gore, would I have had to sneak down for the night lamp? If I hadn't gone to get that night lamp, you probably would have been crippled by me. You have to take responsibility. Or else what? Beg me on your knees? I raised an eyebrow. Curtis gritted his teeth. Or else I'll make you clean the toilet at my house. I sighed helplessly. All right, come in. But I'm not sharing a blanket with you, if you want to sleep. Get your own blanket. Curtis didn't reply. I looked back at him suspiciously. Don't get any ideas. I'm serious. No sharing blankets. Who wants to share blankets with you? In the dim light, Curtis's face flushed red. His collar popped 2 buttons, revealing a clear collarbone and pale skin, both modest and provocative. I suddenly felt a bit regretful. Not for him, but for myself. Desire is like a sharp blade cutting straight into the heart. And I'm afraid I can't control the beast inside me. Curtis hugged a blanket and awkwardly put it down on the bed. I frowned. Why did you bring 2 pillows? Curtis lowered his head, carefully placed the main pillow in the center of the bed, and seriously warned. This is the 38-degree boundary. Neither of us is allowed to cross it. What a psycho. I snorted, then climbed into bed, sprawling my arms and legs into a big X, knocking his pillow off to the side. Curtis frowned. You crossed the line. How am I supposed to sleep now? I closed my eyes and said indifferently. Sleep however you want. Just squeeze in. Curtis hesitated, then resignedly crawled into the space under my arms, curling up to one side. He's tall, and even curled up he doesn't fit, his feet stuck out of the bed. I pretended not to notice. I'd been treated like a beast before. Now it's my turn to make the boss work like a beast for me. Feels amazing. The next time I woke up, it was still dark. In my head lingered the hot dream from before, a dream that made blood rush backwards in my body. Looking back, I felt mortified. Could it be that I haven't seen a real man in so long? Just lying there sharing a blanket and dreaming of such improper things? Corrupt. Really corrupt. But soon I realized, it wasn't entirely my fault. Somewhere came the sound of intense fighting. Loud enough to sound like someone was at it in the house. Wait, what the hell? I was stunned. Quickly shook Curtis, who had half his body hanging off the bed. Wake up. Wake up. What the hell's going on? Curtis sleepily opened his eyes. In the dim light from his phone screen, I saw his face flush bright red when he saw me. Could he have had the same dream? But quickly, Curtis came to his senses. Face beat red, stammering. What's going on? How is the soundproofing so bad? He suddenly threw off the blanket like a ghost was chasing him. Jumped off the bed in a flash. Oh God, I haven't slept all night. I sighed helplessly, resigned to fate, and followed him to check what was going on. As we stepped into the living room, I saw the TV brightly lit, and on it, two Westerners were fiercely battling each other. I looked at Curtis blankly and whispered, "What kind of late-night show is this on your TV? Is this some kind of late-night entertainment?" Curtis's face turned bright red, as if blood was about to burst out of his pores. I don't know. I've never seen anything like this before. Could this be a supernatural phenomenon? Ghosts haunting the TV at midnight? Then I suddenly remembered, maybe we forgot to turn off the TV when we went to bed. Could it be the neighbors upstairs accidentally connected their device to our TV? And so, in the dead of night, Curtis and I, just out of bed, still in our pajamas, stood in the living room, both staring at the TV screen showing a fierce battle scene between two Westerners. How to describe this? Both surreal and embarrassing. I stood frozen, wanting to laugh but afraid to. Curtis looked at me, clearly 100 times more embarrassed. Groaning echoed throughout the living room. And he was still digging through things trying to find the remote but couldn't. Where's the remote? Did you turn off the TV? I rolled my eyes. You turned it off? Don't you remember? Curtis crawled all over the carpet, flipping through everything. Still no remote. Finally, losing patience, he stormed over and yanked the TV's power cord out of the socket. Snap. The screen went black. Peace and quiet finally returned. But for some reason, the atmosphere became even more awkward. I suddenly felt my face flush and lowered my head, unable to say a word. Curtis quickly turned his head away, his ears flushing red. In the spacious living room, we both stood like statues, heads bowed, scratching the floor like we were digging holes. After a moment, Curtis pulled out his phone and furiously typed into the residence's group chat. Who was watching a movie at midnight and accidentally connected to my TV? Not long after, the upstairs neighbor replied. I was wondering why the connection succeeded but the screen was silent. No thanks. Bro. Curtis instantly blew up. Doing that kind of nonsense in the middle of the night? Are you out of your mind? Neighbor. If I was watching during the day, that'd be the real problem. Sorry, bro. Lockdown's boring. Didn't know what else to do. Here's a link in your inbox. Number need. Curtis typed like shooting a gun. I glanced at him and cleared my throat. All right. Now we know what happened. Back to sleep, okay? Curtis gave me a shy glance then turned to head into the bathroom. You go ahead and sleep. I'm just going to the bathroom. Okay. I didn't ask more and turned back to bed. I'd been disturbed too many times tonight. Even my sleep fled. Lying flat on the bed, eyes wide open staring at the ceiling. A restless feeling bubbled up inside me. Should I ask Curtis to sleep in his own room? If this keeps up, I'm afraid our pure boss-subordinate relationship might get complicated. Curtis was in the bathroom for half an hour. Just as I was about to catch some sleep, I heard the door open. He was coming back to bed. Not sure why, I quickly shut my eyes pretending to sleep. The air smelled faintly of lemongrass mixed with lingering shower scent. No surprise, he'd taken a shower before coming back. Curtis quietly lay down beside my pillow. I sensed he tilted his head toward me, watching closely. After a while, he turned away, but his hand lightly touched mine outside the blanket. Cold at first. Seeing no reaction, he gently held my hand. Exhaled softly. Soon even breathing sounds came from beside me. He'd fallen asleep, but I clearly felt his hand holding mine. Cool from the shower at first, but now, warming up from the long hold. Warmth traveled up my arm, finally resting right over my chest. The bedroom window was cracked open a bit, letting in a cool night breeze that made the thin curtain flutter. In the silent dark room, traces of shower scent and steam spread gently. The feather blanket was soft and warm, and the heated floor so cozy that even my heart began to flutter. In the suffocating quiet, my heartbeat raced like someone was drumming under my skin. Damn it, what's he up to? Why sneakily hold my hand while I'm sleeping? No way. This situation seems to be slipping out of control. I don't remember when I fell asleep. Curtis's hand holding mine felt like a hot iron, making me toss and turn all night. He sleeps like a puppy, holding on tightly the whole night. I only remember that before drifting off, dawn was breaking and soft light filtered through the curtains. After an unknown amount of time, I finally managed to open my eyes. In front of me was Curtis's smooth jaw, sprinkled with faint stubble, leading down to his slender neck and a prominent Adam's apple. I tried to turn but found his arm was wrapped tightly around me. That 38-degree boundary pillow from last night was nowhere to be found. The big white feather blanket was tossed on the floor. At some point, he and I had ended up sleeping under the same blanket. I gently lifted the edge of the blanket. Curtis's nightshirt was pulled up, revealing a firm six-pack abdomen. Every line sculpted perfectly. I swallowed hard and unconsciously began counting each muscle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What are you doing? Counting your abs. 6. I froze and looked up, locking eyes with Curtis looking down. His lashes lowered. Morning light softened his face, casting a golden glow, breathtakingly handsome. Diane, how could you take advantage of me while I was asleep? Question mark. I stared at him, totally confused by his logic. Curtis still held my waist. No sign of letting go. He nodded slightly toward the pillow and blanket on the floor. Did you sneak into my blanket while I was asleep? My brain, still foggy, cleared immediately. I angrily sat up. Who held my hand first last night? Curtis blushed but tightened his grip, keeping me from sitting fully. You, not asleep yet? I shyly looked down, silent. How did it come to this? Isn't this moving a bit fast? Curtis's Adam's apple moved slightly. He was silent for a few seconds, then hoarsely said, "Look up." I obeyed, lifting my head by his hand holding my chin. After all, I'm an adult. Actually, when I let him into my room last night, I'd already prepared myself mentally. Curtis is so handsome, even if I monopolize the bed. It's a win-win. But somehow, right now, I started feeling nervous, my face burning hot. Not good, feels like real feelings. Curtis lowered his eyes and slowly leaned closer. My heart felt like it was going to jump out of my throat. Pounding wildly, I panicked and shut my eyes tight. Just as our lips were about to meet. Ding! The doorbell rang sharply in the living room. I snapped awake, my face red as a boiled shrimp. Hurriedly sat up and recoiled instinctively. Curtis froze, his face showing annoyance and frustration. Damn! Who is it at this early hour? He angrily threw off the blanket, got up, and answered the door phone. Hello? Hi, this is building management. Here to deliver supplies. Okay, thanks. Sorry to bother you. Actually, it wasn't early morning when Curtis and I got up. It was already late afternoon. My stomach was growling loudly. And Curtis, now experienced, carried the food into the kitchen. Recently he'd been seriously learning to cook on Douyin, and his skills improved a lot. Now he could even make sweet and sour potatoes that looked almost real, no more potato soup like the first time. The embarrassment and racing heart from last night passed quickly like a short film. Curtis and I didn't mention it again. But we both knew, something had changed. I sat on the sofa, a little dreamy and melancholy, sipping tea. Lately I've felt restless and hot, needing tea to cool down. I thought I'd climb up by talent alone. But in the end, it was my looks that got me promoted. Sigh. Curtis poked his head out of the kitchen wearing an apron. There's beef today. How do you want it? I thought for a moment and shrugged. Stir-fried or stewed, you decide. Curtis nodded and went back to the kitchen. I quietly reveled inside. Who would have thought I'd be sitting back watching the boss cook? Waving my hand saying, you decide. Not long after, Curtis brought out a huge bowl. Tomato beef stew. Go wash your hands and eat. I came out of the bathroom and sat at the table. At that moment, my phone beeped. A notification from the company group. Sender. Curtis. Message. Submit your personal weekly work report. Damn. Here it comes again. This is my least favorite kind of report. Curtis sends this every month and demands a systematic, in-depth summary. Eating feels like sitting in front of a blackboard for a scolding session. Work piles up like a mountain. Who has time to summarize every single thing? Curtis sat opposite me, seriously staring at the group message. His handsome face had moved me many times. But at this moment it suddenly looked infuriating. I was gutsy and teased him. Boss Curtis, where do you want me to start? From last night? He slightly raised his head, arching an eyebrow meaningfully. Don't rush to summarize. The work isn't done yet. Wait for the big achievement before you calculate. I blushed so hard I wanted to dump the stew over my head to cool down. Counting on my fingers. Today was the 13th day. I paused. Tomorrow was the day the lockdown lifted. No wonder Curtis suddenly mentioned the work summary. Turns out, we're about to part ways. Suddenly I felt like I hadn't stayed long enough. Suddenly I felt a little lost. Tomorrow we leave here. What's the point of a summary? What big achievement could there be at work? That damn man didn't care. Didn't hesitate at all. Maybe he was even hoping I'd leave his house soon. I asked irritably. So, when do I leave tomorrow? Leave? Curtis was stunned. You, leaving where? Going home. Of course. It's been 14 days. The lockdown ends tomorrow. He put down his phone. Frowned at me. Are you in such a hurry to leave? I serve you tea and water every day at home. Isn't that good enough? I was speechless. Being in someone's house. Unclear status. Everything felt awkward. I was about to say something when Curtis casually dropped. You can't leave. Huh? There's a new case. You have to stay another 14 days. Inside, I secretly rejoiced. But I pretended to complain. What? Another 14 days? Snap. Curtis immediately put down his chopsticks. What? You have a boss personally cooking for you and you're still not satisfied? Not everyone's that lucky. Still not happy? Does your house have a handsome guy lying next to you every night? I snorted in contempt, deliberately mocking. Like I'd want that. Who's the one hugging a pillow and begging at midnight? Tears running down their face. Saying, I'm too scared to sleep alone. Please let me sleep with. Curtis's expression shifted, still trying to argue stubbornly. I'm just worried about you. You're like a dog biting Luo Dongtan. You don't appreciate kindness. I was too lazy to argue with this stone-faced man. So I just lowered my head and kept sipping my stew. Honestly, the beef stew today was pretty good. There were even some tender garlic sprouts floating in the bowl. I asked suspiciously, where did the garlic sprouts come from? The garlic I had planted a few days ago. Then just tossed carelessly onto the balcony. Probably all withered by now. Curtis glanced at me. Of course I took care of them. If I left it to you, you wouldn't even have a whiff of garlic to eat. I nodded. Gotta admit, you're getting more responsible. Now you're both in the meeting room and the kitchen. Pretty impressive. Curtis didn't reply. I looked up and caught him pursing his lips, barely suppressing a smile creeping onto his face. What's there to be happy about? When the company landed that $1 million contract. You didn't smile like that. Every day his face was as tense as a violin string, forcing us to work overtime without mercy. I looked at him seriously and asked formally, "Who are you? Where's the real boss, Curtis? Did someone possess you? Where's my Curtis?" Curtis glanced at me, that smile still glued to his face. "Focus on eating. That beef in your bowl's enough to shut your mouth." After finishing the meal, Curtis pointed to the pile of dishes. "Go wash the dishes." I immediately held up my phone triumphantly. "Look, I'm 3 days away from my period. Can't touch cold water." Surprisingly, he didn't argue. Instead, he seriously looked at my cycle tracking app for a moment, then nodded very responsibly. "Then I'll message management to send more." You sit down. I'll wash them." Then he put on a floral apron, rolled up his sleeves, grabbed the dishes, and went into the kitchen. I really couldn't connect the image of a man wearing a flowery apron, fluffy slippers, washing dishes in the kitchen, with the CEO image, black suit, shiny leather shoes, every step sharp as ice in the boardroom. I stopped being polite, leaned back on the sofa, lazily switched the TV channel. Outside, it was already completely dark. Winter nights always come quickly, silent, cold, and somewhat anticipated. I lay under the feather blanket on a queen-sized lounge, nearly bored of movies lately, wondering what new show to watch. Curtis finished washing dishes, brought out a plate of cherry tomatoes, put it on the table, then handed me a cup of hot water. "Drink plenty of water." I chuckled helplessly. "Thanks, Boss Curtis." He pulled my blanket up. "Scoot over a bit." I frowned. "There's plenty of sofa over there. Why do you have to squeeze in here?" But Curtis sat stubbornly close, wedging himself into the narrow space beside me, one arm wrapping around my waist. The scent of fabric softener from his shirt wafted gently, cool and pleasant like a spring breeze. "It's colder there, it's warmer here." Liar. Obviously, he was hot as a furnace, probably trying to roast me alive. I didn't expose him because his body was genuinely warm and comfortable. So I leaned halfway into him, feeling his heartbeat pounding openly. "Good job, Boss Curtis." Calm on the outside, heart pounding like it's about to explode. "What should we watch?" I handed him the remote. Curtis flicked through a few channels randomly. "Let's watch a movie and then sleep." He stopped at one. The Proposal, Fake Marriage, with Ryan Reynolds. Looks okay. I had no objections, resting my head on him and nodding lightly. "Okay, let's watch." The movie was a bit long but really funny. It was about a female boss forcing her subordinate into a fake marriage, familiar plot. Huh? When the lead characters had a naked scene, I almost choked on my drink. Cough cough. I immediately turned my face away, clearly avoiding the scene, feeling exactly like when I was a kid watching movies with my parents and had to quickly change the subject during a kissing scene. Curtis covered my face with his hand. "Kids shouldn't watch those scenes." I pushed his hand away angrily. "I was born in 97. He chuckled softly. "I was born in 93. Old fossil. What's there to brag about?" I leaned back, just catching Curtis's accelerating heartbeat. I tilted my head and teased quietly. "Funny coincidence. This is also a love story between a boss and employee." Huh? Curtis lazily smirked. "Also, there's more boss-employee stories?" My face flushed red, and I didn't answer, secretly avoiding his gaze. He wasn't done. "Who is it?" He pulled my face closer, his arm circling tightly around my waist. "Tell me, who is it?" Our bodies pressed together. The heat radiating from Curtis burned straight through my thin shirt into my heart. I got flustered, feverish all over, embarrassed and annoyed. I pushed him hard. "You're so annoying." Curtis was caught off guard. His head bumped into the wall with a thud. He groaned softly, tilting his head sideways, motionless. I was shocked. My heart stopped for a few seconds. Did I just accidentally kill the boss? Curtis, are you okay?" I panicked and rushed over to shake him. He still bowed his head, eyes closed, as if unconscious. I was so scared I clumsily crawled up, about to check if he had a bump. But just as my face got close, Bop. Curtis suddenly opened his eyes. I froze. No time to react. And his waist grabbed me tightly. I stared into his eyes. On the laser TV screen, the lead couple passionately kissed. Every sultry move spilling out of the frame, filling the room with tension. Curtis's eyes reflected the screen light, sparkling. Unfamiliar. His sharp nose under flickering light looked even colder. Shadowed. His lips were a soft cherry pink. Under long lashes half closed, showing a cold yet proud expression. That's when I noticed. He'd put on his thin golden-rimmed glasses. The metal frame gleamed like a cold blade in the dark. Curtis raised his brow slightly, as if he'd instantly returned to his usual, educated rogue, look. His lashes drooped, hiding his sharp eyes as they stopped on my lips. His arm around me tightened, trapping me in his chest. His other hand gently lifted my chin with his thumb, forcing me to look up at him. The scent of lemongrass wafted from him like an addictive fragrance, making my head spin, my consciousness start to fade. I could feel my brain about to boil over. My body stiffened, just waiting for the impending contact. I opened my eyes, dazed. On TV were the two Westerners from last night. And this time, the scene was way more intense. Curtis's face was beyond ugly to look at. His skin was as dark as the bottom of a pot. He instantly grabbed his phone and roared. Damn you, playing that crap on my TV again? I sighed. It was really both frustrating and funny. Curtis must be cursed. He always gets disturbed at the most critical moment. As if fate was playing a prank. I was about to get up and go to bed when, swish, Curtis suddenly pulled me close, holding me tightly so I couldn't escape. One strike to finish. Second weakens. Third exhausts. I won't let the third time kill my mood. He's gone nuts. In the dim light of the night, Curtis pressed his hand on the back of my neck, leaned down, and kissed me deeply and fiercely. The cold night breeze blew down my back, sending shivers. But Curtis, in front of me, was burning hot. My heart skipped a beat amidst the cold hot shock. My body trembling, swept away by his possessive and passionate kiss. Turns out, all the tenderness these past days was just a disguise. This man, at his core, is a born territory raider. With no limits. That night, when I insisted he go back to his room, Curtis was extremely displeased. He pressed one hand against the door, blocking me from closing it. What's wrong? Am I not good enough? Using you and throwing you away. Does your heart made of steel? How can you be so cruel? Let me in. No, Tilda. I held the door firmly. Expression unchanged. Go sleep in your room. Curtis looked hurt. You don't trust me that much? I just want to lie under the blanket and sleep. I swear I won't touch you. I sneered, giving him a sidelong glance. A trustworthy man? Even a sow can climb a tree. Get lost. Curtis saw I wasn't fooled, then switched to a pitiful look. I'm scared. I'm too scared to sleep alone. I slammed the door shut and locked it. Then hug your nightlight and sleep. Knock, knock, knock. Curtis frantically knocked outside. Diane, if you don't let the boss have his way, I'm firing you tomorrow. Go clean the toilet for me in Manchuria. Men are full of hot air. And I already know his tricks well. Ignoring him, I climbed into bed to sleep. The next morning, I got up and went out. Surprised not to smell food as usual. The living room was empty. And Curtis was nowhere to be found. Feeling odd, I went to his bedroom and knocked a few times. A deep voice called, "Come in." I pushed the door open. The large curtains in the master bedroom were drawn tight, making the whole space dim and gloomy like twilight. On the huge bed, Curtis lay on his side, half wrapped in a gray goose-down blanket. His firm, muscular arm exposed. The scene was a bit too seductive. I frowned at him. Not cooking? I'm hungry. HMPH. Curtis glanced at me and smirked coldly. You don't let me sleep. And now you want me to cook breakfast? Diane, I think you're better at being the boss than me. At least I make cakes for employees. You don't even let the horses eat. You make them work like slaves. Men talk too much, never take a break. I glanced around. A thought struck me, so I clutched my stomach pretending to be weak. Ah, my stomach hurts. Probably my period coming soon. Curtis froze. Fake it. Keep faking. I groaned and flopped on the bed. Too hungry. So it hurts more. Damn you. Curtis clenched his teeth, jumped up aggressively, pointed at himself. Kiss me, and I'll serve you like a slave immediately. A kiss it is. No harm done. I leaned in close and gave him a loud smack on the cheek. Curtis instantly wrapped me tightly, not letting me go. We were wrestling and joking around when ring. His phone rang. A video call. Curtis didn't let me go, trying to answer while holding me. I panicked and pushed him away. Get off. Get off. Get off. But it was too late. A woman's piercing scream rang out. Curtis, just now, was that a girl hugging you? I glanced over at the screen. A woman with big curly hair, full of energy and glaring as if she wanted to poke through the screen. Is that Curtis's sister? Curtis immediately denied. No, you must be mistaken. Nonsense. You brat. Do you think your sister's so old that you're blind? She was fierce. Definitely the type of big sister from a rich family. I suddenly felt a bit uneasy. A little anxious inside. Curtis's family was clearly well off. A family like that, would they insist on their descendants marrying within their social class? I instinctively lowered my head. A wave of worry crept into my heart. Just as I was about to say something to Curtis, he turned to me with a smile and then said to the screen. She's shy. If you scare her, she'll run away. The voice on the other end exploded immediately. Really? I told you to go to the matchmaking event. But you stubbornly refused and argued to the end. Damn it, why didn't you say so earlier? Dare to mess with your mom? Wait until lockdown's lifted. I'll grab you by the collar. But very quickly, that fierce voice changed tone completely, switching to an extremely sweet, innocent voice. You're still listening, right? Aunties aren't usually like this. Don't be scared. I really like young, well-behaved girls. When lockdown's lifted, come to my house for dinner. Ha ha. Dinner at her place, or to witness her plucking your hair out. I thought to myself and almost laughed. Curtis shook his head, smiling helplessly. You heard it all. If mom scares people away, she has to pay for it. You brat, how do you talk like that? I'm the kindest person in the universe. All right, be good at home. Treat your wife and kids well. Work hard. Don't be lazy like always. Okay, mom's done talking. Bye-bye. Curtis hung up. I looked at him, my face slightly flushed. That was your mom? So young. I thought it was your sister. He raised a hand, eyebrow cocked, smirking mischievously. Save that comment for when you talk to my mom. She laughs so hard her teeth light up. 28 days had flown by in a blink. 4 weeks sounded long, but looking back now, it seemed like just a flash. In those 28 days, Curtis's cooking skills transformed like flipping a page. From someone who didn't know how to cut potatoes to now making an entire menu of potato dishes. The green garlic sprouts on the balcony had already been harvested twice. And that neighbor upstairs had actually added Curtis on WeChat and sent him the golden link that day. Less than a month, but it felt like we had lived together for ages. Just a few kisses, a few hugs, and an unspoken relationship no one dared to confirm. I came here carrying only a stack of documents. Leaving, I took nothing with me. Curtis looked sullen. Why do you have to leave? Don't you feel comfortable at my place? I looked at him and forced a smile. Very comfortable. It's just, my rental deposit isn't refundable. Not going back means losing money. He laughed coldly, eyes full of mockery. Good excuse. Sounds more like a pretext. Diane, you're truly heartless to the core. I sat by the door, looking up at him. Curtis was truly handsome. So handsome that even when angry, he could make people unable to look away. His eyelids slightly pink, eyes tilted upwards, radiating a cold, romantic aura that made people want to get close but also feel afraid. I glanced toward the living room. We used to squeeze onto that sofa to watch TV. Hug, kiss. We once shared a bed. Even if only for one night. And that night was so awkward I didn't know where to hide my face. I've always held a love in my heart never spoken. And I believe he feels the same. But how real is the, like, in his heart? I don't know. I never confessed. But I hope he will seriously say to me one day, I like you. I pretended nothing was wrong. Smiled lightly. Waved my hand. I'm leaving now. Don't stay up too late missing me. Okay? With that, I turned and stepped into the elevator. I could clearly feel Curtis's eyes still fixed firmly on my back. But he didn't say a word to stop me or see me off. A bitter feeling welled up inside. The door closed, and all those happy, warm days, all the hugs, kisses, nights sitting side by side, were like bubbles, shimmering but fragile. They burst. Curtis didn't contact me. The first time I saw him again at work, he wore a perfectly tailored black suit, face cold as ice, hair slicked back with wax, with no trace of the laziness from those idle winter mornings. His gold-rimmed glasses made him look even more aloof, arrogant, and unapproachable. He walked decisively, followed by staff quickly taking notes on assigned tasks. The pressure he radiated was so strong the whole hallway seemed to shrink. Still the Curtis I knew. But utterly unfamiliar. The man who wore an apron, clumsily cooking for me. The man who feared the dark and knocked on my door holding a pillow. The man who held me while we slept. Who kissed me. Now seemed like he never existed. Like, just a dream I made up. Loved. And then woke from. I stood there stunned, eyes following Curtis's figure. The receptionist nudged me playfully. Stunned. Huh? I heard Curtis was quarantined for 28 days. And during that time the hearts of all the ladies at the company were broken. But I have to admit, he looks even more handsome now. But, I heard you were quarantined a while too? You're in the same building? I forced a smile. No, if that were true, I'd have to start working since the Yuan dynasty to afford a place there. I was just on a business trip and had to quarantine. Curtis seemed unchanged, yet also very different. He was like the wind on my hand. One moment still wrapped around my fingertips. And the next, blown far away. Cold. Sigh? I sighed softly. Men can be lost. But bread still has to be eaten. I adjusted my mood and stepped into the elevator. Looking up, I froze. Curtis was standing inside, eyes sharp and fixed on me, filled with murderous intent, like he wanted to devour me on the spot. What? Did I do something wrong? Is he multiple personalities? I glared back suspiciously. Quote? Curtis gritted his teeth and snorted coldly, then turned away. The managers with him looked bloodless. No one dared breathe loudly. The elevator atmosphere was suffocating. At the 18th floor, he immediately stepped out, walking like a whirlwind, with the department heads trailing timidly behind. No one daring to utter a word. At home, he was gentle and obedient. At work, his real asshole face was fully exposed. No texts, no calls. And he even dared to glare at me? How shameless. I hugged my stack of documents, feeling tangled inside. That look in his eyes. Was it because he was angry I didn't stay at his place? Or was it a play then quit kind of anger? A warning for me to know my place and back off? I really wanted to ask him straight up. But my small, fragile pride stopped me from speaking. Curtis was handsome, talented, from a good family, and in my eyes, he had no flaws. Standing before him, I was literally a head shorter. If I took the initiative to ask, I'd be slapping my own pride. Besides, if he truly liked me, wouldn't a man like that be the one to take the first step? In short, he didn't like me enough. That's all. My mind was a mess. Thoughts swirling endlessly, until a colleague nudged me. Hey Diane, what are you wearing to the year-end party? Huh? I hadn't even reacted. Clothes. I heard this year's raffle has 168 prizes. And the grand prize is a car. Haven't thought about it yet. I answered politely. Truthfully, I was never lucky. No chance for a car. I'd be happy just to win a toy car. The colleague pushed her glasses up, looking concerned. You seem tired and distracted since you came back. What's wrong? Nothing. I smiled lightly. Probably just haven't slept well lately. Sigh? She sighed holding her stack of documents. Curtis is the same. I heard he's stressed like a stretched violin string lately. Some managers getting scolded badly. I don't even dare go to meetings anymore, scared to death. It was true. All I could think about was Curtis. Work was impossible, and I didn't even want to prepare for parties. What was Curtis thinking? Was he mad I left? Missing me? Or simply lost interest? That damn man. Why was he so complicated? That night, I wore a short black dress with a light jacket, quietly sitting under the stage watching others perform. On stage, colleagues dressed flashy, dancing passionately. Everyone wore masks, looking happy but somehow, a little funny. The manager noticed my mood had dropped sharply and didn't make me participate. Just told me to rest. I sat in the back row, my eyes unconsciously fixed ahead, right in the front center row. Curtis sat upright like a statue. The spotlight shone down, making him the center of attention, surrounded by people glowing because of him. From here, he seemed so distant. So distant that I felt we weren't in the same world. I silently watched his back for a while before my eyes were distracted by the prize draw. Surprisingly, given the tough economy this year, the prizes were generous. The worst was a Dyson hairdryer. Really going all out. I looked down at my ticket number, 520. 520. I love you. Even the number knows how to tease. Someone must have purposely slipped that ticket back to me, saying it was lucky, very prosperous. Damn, lucky my head. The third prize was already drawn, but I didn't see my number. One by one, colleagues went up to claim prizes, faces glowing, even turning back to comfort me. It's okay. Maybe there's a consolation prize. I smiled without smiling, expressionless. Thanks. Very consoling. The car winner was laughing so hard they almost fell and kissed Curtis's feet on the spot, thanking profusely. Meanwhile, my face twisted with jealousy. My ticket crushed like trash. Waiting and waiting. Even the consolation prize was drawn. And still no luck. No way. If I stayed any longer, I'd probably have a stroke from anger right there. I jumped up, and a colleague behind asked quickly, "Where are you going?" I glanced at her sparkling 20-gram gold bar, forcing a fake smile. Out, to get some fresh air. If I didn't leave, I could really collapse from jealousy right in the hall. Stepping outside the ballroom, the cold wind hit, temperature dropping sharply, cold enough to wake me up, but not enough to ease the bitterness inside. Men and year-end bonuses. If there's none, then whatever. I stood there for a long time, until my hands and feet were numb and lost feeling. Then slowly turned back to the hotel ballroom. Just as I pushed open the terrace door and stepped inside, I froze. In front of me stood Curtis. Right opposite him was a tall woman with big wavy curls, wearing a tight evening gown and a fur coat. Her skin was pale, lips red, radiating a dazzling aura. She was lightly poking his chest with her finger, her eyes smiling like spring. Curtis grabbed her wrist with one hand and wrapped his arm around her shoulder. The two were so close, so intimate, I could hardly believe my eyes. We had only parted a few days ago, and it was already like this? Was I just being sentimental? Or had he never cared to begin with? I stood there stunned. The cold air I had just breathed in seemed to freeze my heart in an instant. At that moment, I didn't even feel hurt. Just bewildered. So that's how it was. No wonder. No wonder he disappeared these past few days. There was someone new. And all this time I was asking myself what I had done wrong. How foolish I was to hope. Turns out I was just a temporary plaything. Something to pass the time until something newer, prettier, came along to replace me. He acted out a family play with me for a few days, then quietly withdrew, leaving me as if I had never existed in that world. Before me, the two of them grew more and more intimate, almost glued together. Curtis even gave a sly smile, lifting the beauty's dress as if teasing her. No way. They were going to do it, right here? A surge of disgust, humiliation, and pain rose in my throat, nearly choking me. I turned to leave quietly, as if I had never been here. But just then, Curtis looked up and caught my gaze. Our eyes met in an instant. In that moment, The smile on Curtis's face froze like it was iced over. His expression changed drastically. He raised his hand. Wait. I didn't wait. I didn't want to listen. I immediately turned and ran out as if fleeing. Wait for what? To watch him be intimate with someone else right in front of me? I bolted down the stairs. Heart burning like fire. I had to get away. Get as far away from this disgusting man as possible. Behind me came heavy footsteps. Hey, Diane, let me explain. Explain my ass. I was wearing a dress and heels. Running was incredibly hard, but I still kept my head down and rushed to the parking lot. And then, he grabbed my wrist. I looked up, eyes red and gasping, staring at him like I wanted to kill him. Why are you chasing me? Trying to silence me because I saw you two going at it? Curtis looked like he was about to cry and laugh at the same time. Holding up a furry thing in his hand. Damn, that's a wig. It's my brother. He had to go perform at the company's year-end party. Question mark. What the hell? I stared dumbfounded at the wig in Curtis's hand. It really was the dark brown big curls I had just seen. At that moment, the clicking sound of high heels drew nearer, and behind Curtis appeared a man, wearing that very wig on his head. Radiating a vibe of reluctantly dressing as a woman. He wore red high heels. Breathing hard, hands trembling as he leaned against the door. Getting closer, I could clearly see, he was a real man. Handsome but with zero feminine aura. As soon as he saw Curtis holding up the wig, he exploded. Are you crazy? Why the hell are you grabbing my wig? Then, spotting me behind Curtis, his expression changed 180 degrees. Smiling like spring bloom. So it's sister-in-law. Don't misunderstand. I'm a man. A straight man. He took off his fur coat, revealing muscular arms and strong biceps. Walked forward to snatch the wig back from Curtis. Gave him a sharp glare like saying, I told you not to ruin my image. Then turned to me, smiling shyly. I gotta go now. Sister-in-law. Still have to perform. I'll treat you next time. With that, the guy swayed his high heels, strutting away, leaving me and Curtis standing frozen in the parking lot. Now do you believe me? Curtis impatiently turned my head back, snorting coldly. What were you running for? Think you're in a drama? I knew I was a bit overreacting, but embarrassed and angry, I fired back. Do I need your permission to run? What do we even have between us? Curtis bent down, eyes sharp as knives, a devilish smile curling his lips. Nothing at all, just hugging, kissing, sleeping in the same bed. Right? His voice echoed through the basement. And I startled, clamping my hand over his mouth. My face burning red like a ripe tomato. What nonsense are you spouting? Don't say stupid things. Curtis frowned, clearly unhappy. What did I say that was wrong? Which part isn't true? Diane, you dumped me and ran away. Right? I called. You didn't answer. Messaged. You ignored. So cool. Let me tell you. Want to dump me? Don't even dream about it. Damn, he was even blaming me? I was so angry my hands trembled as I pulled out my phone and shoved it at him. Do you have any shame? Curtis? You say you called me? When? Curtis snatched my phone, scrolling through call history, frozen. Did I really call? He pulled out his phone, opened his call log. Look, I've called you more than 10 times a day these past few days. I looked down carefully. He really had called a lot. The displayed number was 3158. That number I dumped a long time ago. I looked up, face utterly speechless. Are you stupid? I changed my number. Curtis frowned. Impossible. I checked through the company's internal system. Probably just not updated yet. Curtis's face turned black as a pot bottom. Angrily standing up. Damn, who's in charge of logistics? Even the boss's contact info isn't updated? Tomorrow I'm firing them. I flushed red. Boss? Besides, you can't reach me. Do you not know how to find me in real life? Curtis was silent for a moment, pulling at his hair, his voice tired and hurt. I have pride. You know, you don't answer calls or messages. Even blocked friend requests in the group. I thought you were done playing. Really dumping me. Me. Damn, maybe we're both a little clueless. Besides, didn't I come looking for you today? Curtis muttered, voice soft as a mosquito's buzz. Bullshit, I exploded. I clearly caught you two doing something shady. Shady my ass. Curtis half laughed, half cried, gently placing a hand on my head like soothing a child. It's freezing outside, and you're barely dressed, aren't you cold? He pulled me forward. Get in the car, get warm first. I was pulled along, and indeed, standing outside so long, my feet had gone numb like ice cream. I dragged my steps behind him, still unwilling to give in. It's your fault. With that dumb raffle, that damn number never wins anything. Not even a consolation prize. Curtis chuckled softly over my head. You idiot. What did you say? I pinched his arm hard. You dare say that? How does this have anything to do with me? I'm just unlucky. Curtis reached the car, stopped, and held out his hand to me. Blinking at him, confused. What's this for? Give me your ticket. I fumbled in my coat pocket, pulling out the crumpled, dog-chewed ticket from my innermost pocket, handing it to him with suspicion. 520. Curtis unfolded the ticket, examined it carefully, voice serious. Not bad. That's the grand prize. I still didn't get it. What kind of grand prize? A husband who knows how to work hard for you. Curtis smiled, then suddenly opened the trunk of his Mercedes. The smooth trunk lid lifted, revealing a trunk full of roses, interspersed with soft shimmering lights. Too many to count. He pulled a small velvet box from his chest, then knelt down on one knee right in front of me. I thought, there should be some kind of certificate, so I'd be legally allowed to work hard for you forever. Grand prize number 520, no exchanges, no returns. Soft lighting cast over Curtis's profile. He wore a sharp suit, knelt formally, holding the ring box, smiling with a serious yet satisfied expression. His lips pressed tightly as if trying to control his nervousness. I couldn't help but laugh, tears falling down my cheeks before I realized it. Who gets engaged this soon? I laughed and cried at the same time, my heart melting like a marshmallow in warm water. Curtis's smile deepened, his eyes gentle and sparkling. Actually, I knew the building would be locked down, so I called you to deliver the documents. Just didn't time it right. Almost let you slip away. I was confused. What do you mean? Do you remember when you first joined the company? You bumped into me, and before I could say anything, you already turned and ran away like now? Right then I thought, this woman is really interesting. Are you acting like some CEO in a drama? I frowned, speechless. Just joking. He smiled softly, slipped the ring onto my ring finger. That smile both serious and satisfied. I just don't know when exactly. I started loving you and can't stop. Then he gently pushed my shoulder, raising an eyebrow. Your turn now. Where's your line? I froze. What line? Tisk. Curtis frowned, wearing a look of disdain. I do, of course. I booked a seaside restaurant. All romantic and everything. But you just ran away. Straight here. In the freezing parking lot. Dim lights cast on the breathless silence. But inside me, a fire bloomed. Warm, thrilling, and no regrets anymore. The hum of engines and distant car horns occasionally broke the silence. Around us were blinking car lights and cold gray concrete pillars. Our witnesses to the proposal, not people, but cars of all colors and models. Quietly still. No music. No fireworks. No cheering crowd. But I had Curtis. Suddenly I realized, there was no place in this world more romantic than here. I teared up, looked at him, and laughed through the tears. I do.